Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Lune, and I hope you're well. And if you're not, I hope you are well soon. So, today, talking about the shadow, about the darker parts of ourselves that we find it difficult to look at, but that we desperately need to if we would like to learn lessons and move forward in a way that is productive and good for us and our soul and our life path and all of that jazz, all that good stuff. So, the shadow, I made another video a long time ago talking about how the shadow is a good thing, and it is. From a non-duality stance, the shadow is incredible. It may not feel that way sometimes when you are in your shadow, in that shadow aspect of yourself, or you're behaving or acting or feeling from shadow. It doesn't feel good. That's how you that's how you can tell. But the shadow, it really isn't to be feared. It is to be acknowledged, accepted, understood, and integrated. It is the aspect of ourselves, the side of ourselves that is here to teach us lessons. It is literally the perceived negative, perceived bad, pain, suffering that is intentionally put there to learn from, to overcome, to understand ourselves on a deeper soul level, as an individual, as a human too, but at a soul level specifically, the most. It's the soul thing. I love soul stuff. We are souls, okay? So yes, it helps us to learn those lessons, because it is what we have come here to learn. Everything that our shadow reflects to us, shows us, is something that we intended to learn about, intended to experience for our soul's evolution. So, the shadow. It's an interesting thing because it is a lot of things, and sometimes we don't actually even realize like what is a shadow aspect of ourselves until a certain amount of time. Like, I know for myself, the shadow aspects of myself that I know now, I did not know before, or if I did know, I did not accept it. And so it was difficult to look at. With certain things that I've been through or experienced, there were times where I was like, ugh, I do not want to look at that. Because it's uncomfortable, right? It's uncomfortable. Sometimes it's scary. Sometimes it is really unnerving to accept the reality of either what happened in our lives, what we did, what others did, ourselves or people around us, like what happened, what is occurring, whether on an individual scale, like what's happening like in your around you, or on a global scale of like seeing other people hurt each other or feeling guilty that you can't help this person, whatever. It's like it is all of that. It is all of the difficult, painful emotions, behaviors, attachments that come up. And that is why it's so difficult to look at, and why a lot of people will not look at it. If you see people in life that are still stuck in the same cycles, same patterns, it is because they refuse to look at it. They refuse to look at those darker parts of themselves because it's so scary. But I'd like to offer you this perspective, is that although it is very painful in the time that you are looking at the shadow, once you do look at the shadow, once you do process it, over time it gets easier to look at it. It gets easier to see those dark things and not be afraid of them, but understand them as just a normal, genuine part of your reality. And that it occurred, it happened, and you're processing it. And then once you process it, you can release it. You can integrate it. You can release the difficult part of it and integrate it as something that is productive and supportive for you instead. So it's like alchemizing your experiences, pains, traumas, sufferings to fuel you and help you become something different and better, and come back to who you really are. and to help your soul learn. Oh, it's so many things. It's so cool. But in integrating it and doing that, yes, it becomes easier. You start to realize that it isn't so scary. It's very natural. It's cyclical. And it gets easier to kind of dive into it almost. If I would like to share my own experience about going to shadow work, when I first started, right, it was extremely painful. Like, I was like, am I dying? Like, what is happening? Am I dying? Like, literally, it felt like that. Like, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, I was like, I'm dying right now. That's what this is. I'm dying. No. But I wasn't dying. I was dying probably mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Technically, I was energetically. I was dying because I was having a death and a rebirth of my understanding of myself. But I wasn't dying. So it feels like that sometimes, and it can be really difficult. But in those times, you just need to be there for yourself, be gentle with yourself, and understand like the whole purpose of why you're doing that. If your soul wants to look at something, needs you to look at something, and you're ignoring it, start looking at it. Start accepting it for what it is, even if it is extremely painful, because as you move through it, yes, there's going to be pain, probably. Actually, there always is with shadow work, like when you, that's the whole point of shadow, but it gets easier to not have it affect you as much the more you get used to it, and after you've released so much of it, it really isn't as there's not as much weight. You feel lighter. But yes, when you are experiencing it, it's going to be really painful. But if you allow yourself to feel that pain and to accept that pain, it's not as painful. It sounds really strange and so like weird. It's like by accepting it, you release it and it does not impact you as much. It's very weird. But yeah, so over time, I started out with it being very, very painful, feeling like I'm dying. And there are still times where I feel that. As you ascend, there will be times like that. But for the most part, as you level up from one, like, oh, I got to this shadow work and now I'm releasing it, and now I'm like building up my shadow work repertoire, whatever you want to call it, the easier it gets to dive right back in whenever you need to, because you're more confident in your ability to handle it. Once you have handled it in a certain space in a certain time, you start to see that it's not as difficult, it's not as hard, it's actually very productive. And it feels good to look at yourself in such a raw, like, genuine way, all the dark parts of yourself, so that you can accept and love yourself fully. And as you do that, you embody who you really are fully. You're not holding yourself back anymore because you've looked at everything that you intended to look at to become the person that you are meant to be and want to be. That is the shadow. And the more that I understand my shadow, the more I know myself, and the more lessons I learn, and the more I can share with other people about what I've experienced, what I am experiencing. It is very beautiful. It is transformative. So that was my little spiel about the shadow. And really, I was just talking about my understanding and different things I'm realizing about it, or just in general sharing my knowledge of the shadow at this point in time. Obviously, it can be more than that. There's a lot to it. The shadow is different for everyone, but there's a lot of common themes in the shadow for everyone, because we're human beings. We experience a lot of the same emotions, sometimes similar experiences, whatever. But overall, our shadows are completely unique because we are unique. So your shadow work is going to look different than someone else's based on your memories, who you are, how you've grown up, what you've been around, how you have acted, whatever. It's so many different things that impact that shadow work for you. So yeah, okay. Yeah. that was fun to talk about. I hope you guys are well. And if you're not, I hope you're well soon. And have a great day. Goodbye.